biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into a special edition Misfit podcast. If you were listening while we are recording or after we record on October 14th, then 6 days from now, the Misfit affiliate Montezuma phase starts October 20th, Monday, October 20th, and you can get a 2-week free trial to see what that looks like. Sort of dip your toes into the water, if you will, by heading to teammisfit.com, click on sign up now, and you can get a 2-week free trial at SugarWOD, StreamFit, or Push Press. If you would like to sign up on our website, email me, coach@misfitathletics.com, and I will get you a free sample of the first 2 weeks of the Montezuma phase. And then that way you can have an open line of communication. Honestly, everyone gets an open line of communication. You want to do an onboarding call, you want to talk through why you should use our affiliate programming, feel free to reach out. And these podcasts serve a bunch of purposes, but I think mainly getting people excited. We're going to talk a little bit here in a second about the idea of narratives, but getting people excited about the phase and knowing that we do put a lot of thought and effort into the concept of variance and making sure they're good workouts, but we also put a lot of thought and effort into the structure of things, because a absolutely perfect program that people find to be a little bit boring or redundant isn't going to work as well as something where we can get people rallied around kind of a concept and an idea. Before we get into that, as always, we're going to go through housekeeping, shout outs, all that good stuff, a little bit of live chat, and then we will dig into Montezuma. Just a little bit of a reminder, especially for affiliates, we have made the full move from Discord to Telegram. If you haven't received that invite, we sent that out via email. If you didn't receive that, again, contact us anywhere. I'm coach@misfitathletics.com. I will let you guys know that my hope is to get you guys a little bit more active on Telegram and then create that private group once again, like we had in Discord. But what I found is if I create a private group that takes you clicking an extra link and moving over there, it's going to have even less traction. So at first, let's just get on to Telegram. We've had a few sort of random conversations, that sort of thing. Keeping it going a little bit more often, I think will be helpful for everybody. Shout out to Nate Gordon and Katie Tavog, both podiumed at the 2025 Masters Fitness Championship. I think one of the coolest things is when someone puts in the effort to talk to people on Telegram and to show up at training camps and sort of really be a member of the community. When you do that, that's how you get so many people jumping into Telegram and congratulating you on all of the hard work that you've put in and being able to put that on display. So just a lot of cool notes from people saying congratulations to both Nate and Katie. And that comes from putting yourself out there and becoming part of the communities. Just cool to see people's hard work being put on display, and cool to see people who take the time to sort of help usher the community, move it along, get the shout outs.
Sure.
We also have, and I'll go in a specific direction here with this. We have Misfit training camp at CrossFit Roots in Boulder, Colorado, January 30th through February 1st.
Yeah.
If you click on the link in bio at Misfit Athletics on Instagram, the top thing there is for you to be able to get signed up. And early bird pricing is live through November, and then it bumps up about $50. We've said it before, I'll say it again. People wonder if this is for athletes or coaches. And it's very much an and versus an or. And I will say that sometimes it's potentially geared a little bit even more towards coaches, just because we are coaches and we are thinking about when we are creating the camp and the outline and what we want to do in it, it is from a coach's point of view. And if you were to attend camp with that perspective, you would get a lot of really good nuggets. And of course, the athlete is going to show up and look at it through a different lens. You are teaching me how to do this thing. But if I'm a coach and I go to something like that, I want to know how someone's structuring a skill breakout session, the way that they communicate with people, the way that they deliver information, the way that they have the sort of presentation of something within camp. And our coaching staff, I'll put myself aside, we've got some people who are really good at sort of running that affiliate type class and presenting things within that way. So it's just a really cool thing to absorb if you have the right perspective for coaches. So definitely for coaches, definitely a very strong connection if you are a Misfit affiliate gym and you've wanted you know, sort of that in-person experience with us, this is going to be the best place to do it. And we've joked already that we used to ask you to come to Maine in the winter, and it's just dark and cold, basically, unless you want to fucking go snowshoeing or
Dude,
something.
I don't want to fucking go to Maine in the winter. I'm already scared.
It will be cold, not probably as cold. It's also dry in Boulder, but it's beautiful and it's a really cool area, and it's definitely got a vibe in the wintertime. That's pretty cool. I went to college out there and spent some time there, and it's, pun not intended, cooler than Maine. I'll just put it that way. So sign up for camp.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add on that is, like, I thought what you just said kind of made me think back a little bit, just from, like, how camp has, it's always been structured very similarly, I think, but, like, with change, obviously small changes here and there, but the you know, who it's for, I think, has probably shifted the most. Not that it wasn't never for, like, coaches. You could always, like, if you're a coach and you pay close enough attention, you can always get something, but it was very much for athletes who want to compete at a certain level initially, and with, like, you know, one over time to just, like, the nature of the sport has led that to be more people interested in. Yeah, there's a competitive aspect from an athlete perspective, but, like, the focus has shifted a bit to being like, hey, this is equally, if not more valuable for coaches than it is for, you know, athletes, because the athletes who really end up wanting to take it seriously from a competitive standpoint more than likely are either have a coach, or maybe it's gonna get them to pull the trigger on something like remote coaching or something like that, which leaves kind of everybody else. And we've always had a lot of coaches or people who have, maybe they just have their L1 or something like that. They go to a camp and they pick up some nuggets. So very much equal parts for coaching and athletes. And I think the lectures and the talking points and stuff like that have also shifted, not even intentionally, but provide more, like, really good value to a coach who wants to, you know, just pick some new stuff up for use wherever they use it.
Right. And we will, over a long enough time horizon, we're going to adjust what's in camp for who shows up at camp, I think is probably an important point, but then also in real time for who's there. Just the way that you're communicating, the way that you're talking, the side conversations are going to be driven by who is there and what sort of knowledge are they trying to get. And we do the thing where, like, Friday night is the lifting session. And honestly, more than anything, it's an icebreaker, because it's, you know, coming to camp is not cheap, and you guys only get us for 2.5 days. And I don't want people to wait until Sunday afternoon to start asking questions and start to get out of camp what they wanted to be able to get out of camp.
Yeah.
So last week you joined Nicole from CrossFit Roots and Dave Castro randomly. I'll tell my little joke that I said to you. I was in my office programming and I didn't have my noise canceling on, and Hunter's voice was like probably 25 to 50% higher than I've heard it, especially
higher
because
or louder?
Louder.
Thank
Not
you.
higher volume. And there's a lot of cursing, and I was like, wow, he's having like a very, like, it doesn't sound negative, but it sounds spirited conversation. I was like, what the fuck is happening? But I had to continue getting my shit done, so I put my noise canceling on and closed my door. And then his mug pops up on my YouTube. And I was confused also. It said CrossFit Tupelo. I was like, come on, guys. You can't even get our affiliate name right. But there's a reason for that. So, Hunter, why were you randomly the stand-in for CrossFit Tupelo?
Randomly selected by the maybe most recent text message from Nicole Christensen. It was probably just the name that popped up. Yeah, the background is that I was just, Nicole had actually messaged me earlier in the day to thank me for the sled ski sprint workout that our affiliates had last week. Her gym, what a fucking sadist, was sled assault bike. She said they either didn't have enough ski ergs or don't have any ski ergs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, good fucking Lord. Like, that was, I did C2 bike ski earlier in the day. And I think, honestly, in, like, the tough part about the sled is, like, so peek behind the programming curtain here. We have sleds. Lots of gyms have sleds. Sleds are a phenomenal tool. It's difficult to program them in an affiliate setting because you have to make sure that they're available. Maybe you got 20 people in 4 sleds. So what are you going to do? We want to program them. We want to keep the variance in there. But I think the C2 bike version might have been fucking gnarlier. Anyway, she texted me, said, "Thank you. I almost threw up. We're so happy with the programming. Everybody should follow it." I said, "Thank you." Kyle actually wrote the workout. So anyway, a few hours later, it's like I have like 20 minutes until I have to coach, and she texted me. She goes, "What are you doing right this minute?" And I'm like, "Nothing really. Like, I got 20 minutes till I coach. Why?" I thought she maybe had a programming question. And whoever was supposed to be on with Dave and Nicole, tough look for them. But I got the I guess second round draft pick phone call to chat about it. But I guess they had been talking about the workout as well. Dave was doing the CrossFit Games, connecting the strings to the thumbtacks on the whiteboard, doing the logistics thing, and he's like, "I don't think it's not a good workout for this reason and that reason, but it's a great workout," because it clearly was a great workout. And to his credit, he was just, probably giving Nicole shit, and then just thinking about how this runs at an affiliate class. But anyway, that is essentially how I got myself on a phone call with Castro and Nicole Christensen. Apparently got shit for
listen to it,
having my vertical camera.
Look for CrossFit Tupelo.
Yeah.
Interview
which is hilarious. I was like,
YouTube channel.
Fuck, God damn it. CrossFit Tupelo. Come on, Dave. CrossFit MF, Misfit Gym Portland. But
yeah,
I was kind of bummed. I would have, if Kyle was here, Kyle can listen to this, but if Kyle was here, it would have been like, "Kyle, you're the 330 guy now. I got to keep talking. Yeah. I got to keep the interview going here." Interview's a bit of a stretch. A 15, 20-minute stand-in for a conversation is probably more realistic, but good chatting with him for sure.
Yeah, the things that I picked up on is like, one, his opinion of the sleds was kind of funny to me, and maybe because we don't use it as a crutch, I don't see it that way, but it's like one of the most, it's like the kind of thing where, like, if I could, instead of stimulus checks, I would send everyone a sled. Like, it is so accessible.
Yeah.
Every single person can use it. Like, it's just, to me, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And to be able to moderate stimulus the way that you can, like, that's one of the reasons why it can be challenging at the affiliate level to program like the Echo bike and the air bike as an inverse, because it's fixed in like how much resistance it gives, right?
Yeah, sure.
And luckily you can use your arms and your legs, so that bites into it a little bit. If it was fixed resistance and it was just arms or legs, it would get ugly.
Yeah,
really
for
fast.
Sure. I think that's a good, like, really nice point too. And for any coach or athlete out there listening, like, you can sprint with an empty sled, you can run with like a moderate sled, you can like trudge slowly as fuck for a short distance with something wildly heavy. It can be light, you can use it for accessory work. It can be light, you can use it for like cardio, like just literally dragging it for periods of time. It's so good for super deconditioned athletes who can't, maybe safely load, whether it's putting something on their back or, maybe running with maybe you've got a burden run type workout where you're supposed to carry something. Pushing a sled's a little more accessible. It's a wildly useful tool in the same way as the Assault and Echo bike can be tricky to challenge. I think can be the issue with the sled in the group classes as well, which is, again, I think that workout was great. I think people enjoyed it. I think we could have programmed it maybe a little bit better, or it's just hard. You have to get that sweet spot of like, it's loaded properly. The athletes have to go hard with it. So I think it did its job. I think it was probably like a 7 out of 10 versus what could have been an 8 or 9 out of 10 in hindsight, but still like a super effective tool that you guys should have in your back pocket.
As a natural segue to Castro saying Misfit affiliate is affiliate programming for big boys, I believe is what he said. Basically just insinuating that, like,
sales pitch.
Yes, but listen, I don't want to say we've even tried, because it's probably not true, but there have been ebbs and flows in the way that we program and communicate in an effort to make certain things more accessible over the course of whatever it is, 13 years. And the programming that resonates with people, that gets the best results, is the one where we give a level of responsibility to the athlete and to the coach, whether that's affiliate programming or individual programming, because we're not trying to be like puppeteers. So we end up with a smaller group, but I think we make a larger change. We have a larger effect on the greater fitness community by doing that. And the reason why that's a segue is just because there's nuance to what surface are you pushing on, what style of sled is it, how many people do you have in class, how many sleds do you have? Like, there's nuance related to that. And if a coach at our gym ran a bad class and you had a meeting with them and they said, but you wrote it on the screen, it's not my fault, we wouldn't accept that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, you're seeing these things happen in real time, and if you don't understand it, you can run them through a warm-up where you can figure it out on the fly. Like, there's just enough nuance here that the expectation is not for us to provide a program where you can set up a fucking recliner in the corner and get into it and watch people exercise in your gym. That I don't want that. You know what I mean? If our MRR, if our revenue was double in a month and we hated the product that we were putting out there, that would get old really fucking fast. So I just think that the idea that we are writing programming for experienced coaches plays into, okay, there's a lot of nuance to a sled.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say experienced is the requisite. I would say like gives a shit is the requisite. You can be an inexperienced coach, and like if you give a shit, that person is going to read the notes, they're going to read the scaling options, and they're in theory going to do their best to understand what this is supposed to be. And that all is also going to, again, you have a coach who wants to be doing what they're doing. They're also going to communicate that to the athletes. Odds are that class is going to be a good time and effective. Whether or not people get the same scores as Misfit Gym Portland or not is way less relevant. And I think like your point is really salient. It's like if you were the judge, literally in a legal case, and you've got coach and athlete, plaintiff defendant, and it was like coach is like, I like give a shit so much, I care, like I want the best, I tell athletes exactly what to do, and the athlete is just like, I only do literally exactly what my coach says and nothing else. The judge, I'm going to be like, okay, athlete, like, what the fuck? Like, no wonder it's not working. Like, there's no responsibility on your end. If you're at the other side, the athlete's like, I'm here to work. I want to get better. And like, coach is in the recliner. Coach looks at the whiteboard, says, hey, go do the warm up. Okay, here's the workout. We're starting in 5 minutes, like, and then I'm like, hey coach, what the fuck? Like, there has to be that meet in the middle, that 50-50 kind of agreement. And it's not just because it's not as much like our opinion as it is just like both people have to be invested. It's a fucking marriage. Like, if one person cares and the other doesn't, it doesn't matter how much the person who cares. Like, it has to be a mutual thing. And like, when it comes to doing taking the step of like, well, what about a timeline? What about skill progressions? What about, this, that, and the other thing? Like, other programs include that. And it's like, yeah, okay, like, got it. That's fine. And like, good for them. You want to do that. That's great. That's not to say that like we couldn't do certain stuff like that, but it's more the idea that like, hey, the expectation is that you're doing your best to translate what we've done here. And like, if you have a third person in this group, like us, the programmers, like if we didn't give a shit about it, then that's going to trickle down as well. So it starts with us giving a shit and making sure that we're writing a good product and not babying you. And again, it's like, I was kind of explaining this to Dave when he asked like, what sets your program apart? It's like, well, again, maybe the worst sales pitch in history in hindsight after listening to it. But I was like, listen, like, I don't know what equipment you have. I don't know what your gym layout is. I don't know what the motivation level of your athletes are, what the experience of your coaches are. So I'm giving you the most, but not the, like, I'm giving you the select number of tools that I think you need to run this effectively. That requires you to think just a little further, to take one additional step in the thought process. I'm not asking you to like, if I just said, hey, write a 10-minute workout with 3 movements, like that's bullshit, right? I'm not giving you any value there, but it's like, hey, here's the workout, here's the stimulus, here's a bunch of scaling options, here's how you can do this if you don't have a bunch of equipment. Like, I want to take care of like the logistical kind of thought process for you. But as far as like the nitty gritty of like, well, what do I teach people? It's like, I don't know. Do you have 10 like brand new beginners? Because this muscle up progression isn't very useful for those 10 brand new beginners, right? And like, I need you to cater how you're going to teach this class for the individuals. And like, even at our gym, that the demographic and the requirement changes from hour to hour. It's like, I'm not teaching the 5 a.m. people the same thing I'm going to teach the 5 p.m. people, because they have it's a different group of people. They're at a different stage in their fitness, and they need a different kind of approach. So if you're looking for me to like plug the coach into the wall and wind him up and be like, yep, this is the coach for this class, like I'm willing to bet that that's the gym that also program hops and or caters to whatever members want, versus like, hey, this is the CrossFit methodology. This is why it works. This is how we do it. If you don't like it, totally fine. CrossFit's for anyone. It's not for everyone. That's what we do here.
And there's like insert teach a man to fish quote here, right? Like if we
exactly
if we baby people, we're not going to end up with the retention or the pictures from, Jesse's gym or Nicole's gym of the PRs. So show up at camp, email us, be like, hey, how did you think through this? That kind of thing. That is where we can help you like really execute as coaches and owners. One more thing before we get into it. So if you are already following the program and you're listening to this podcast on the day that it is released, tomorrow is 15 years to the day that I opened the garage in my house. The garage door opened and CrossFit MF had affiliate classes. I was 24 years old. I chose the house specifically because the garage had high enough ceilings for me to hang muscle up rings from this steel beam that ran across the top of the garage. So like there were other houses that I liked. And we were joking yesterday the difference. I didn't think I had a W-2 and they gave me a mortgage. I just graduated college.
Yeah.
So different times in many, many ways. You guys have the 15th anniversary workout. It's a bit of a doozy of a workout. Other variations of it that I wrote, like you would have needed like a 2-hour class. So it did get whittled down a little bit, but I think it'll be spicy. And yeah, I mean, basically just a shout out to 15 years as a CrossFit affiliate and everyone who's been involved, and just the idea of the like maturation process and what our affiliate has turned into now versus what it was is pretty crazy. But I can tell you that it's funny that you said the give a shit thing. I am designing the logo for our educational stuff, and it's like, I won't release the name yet, but it is very much a juxtaposition between higher education and people who say motherfucker too often. And the crest has a flag in it that says GAS on it. That is the consistent thing that's been there. And, you're giving a shit about different stuff at different points, but the level of like, we're super into this thing and we're drinking the Kool-Aid and all of that has been there from day one. So just bonkers for me to look back over 15 years as an affiliate.
It's a long time.
Yes, it is. All right. So one of the things that you talked to Castro about that I was sort of smirked a little bit was he really liked the idea of the bias because of some of the stuff that we've talked about before, because of the narrative. We got to get people bought into this thing, right? Like people post all the time online, like a good program that is actually followed is better than a perfect program that no one follows. And I wouldn't slot us all the way down to just good, but just the idea of it in and of itself. So when I go to name these things, I'm trying to find what really pops out to me when I look at what the programming biases are. And when I see deadlifting and wall walk / handstand walk, I see a really strong connection, especially because of all of the deadlift, handstand walk, deadlift, handstand push-up workouts that we used to get back in the day. And someone who might like one or the other, or one or the other in a certain form, when programmed together, you find out how much of this is about your trunk and about your midline and your ability to connect your lower half to your upper half so that essentially you can do the movement while your body stays in a specific position. So the name Montezuma is from the Montezuma cypress, which is the thickest tree trunk in the world. And if you look up pictures of it, it's like an entire school of children standing in a line left to right. They're like 30, one of the ones in Mexico is 38 feet wide, just the trunk itself. I mean, it looks like a bunch of different trees, but it's actually
like diameter or around?
Yeah, diameter.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So that's where the idea of the sturdy trunk, and I actually do want to talk a little bit before we get into specifics about core strength, core stability, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a ever evolving idea in my head of what it means and how to achieve it and how to express it and all that. But that's what I see when I look at these two things: the ability to set your body in a position to then perform the movement, the way that it is intended to. But there's something about setting yourself up to succeed before you even do the movement that draws so many connections between upside down stuff and pulling off the floor.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like the idea, I think it's something that like it's been around in the methodology since day one, the idea of midline stabilization and in the deadlift, especially posterior chain engagement. I wish it was posterior chain development was the word instead of engagement, because then it might at least imply that like, hey, the goal is for athletes to actually make this area stronger, not just kind of use it as is. Because I find that there are just so many athletes, and if you're a coach, you've undoubtedly struggled with working with athletes who either just can't flatten their back, in the setup of a deadlift safely, or maybe as they hinge to lower the weight down, they start to round a little bit. And it's just one of those things that's almost become like you kind of accept a certain level of like, well, that's just kind of how this person moves, as opposed to like really trying to explain like, what does it actually mean to stabilize your midline? What does it actually mean to engage your posterior chain? And then what does that look like in reality? And then in practice. And I think just like teaching athletes that, and especially the way that we're doing the deadlifting stuff this phase, at least on the heavy days, with kind of like having to reset on every rep, forces a level of like, actually developing a proficient setup in your deadlift position and like learning how to stabilize your midline, engage your posterior chain. But I think it's a part of the methodology that gets missed and is maybe like arguably two of the, if not the most important elements of preventing injury. You develop your posterior chain, all of those muscles on your backside turn into stabilizers for your low back. And especially with, just kind of lifestyles in general for people today. Like I work at a gym and I still like, find myself sitting often. So I totally get people, glued to their chairs for 8 to 10 hours a day, but learning how to engage all of those muscles that get shut off, your butt, your hamstrings and whatnot. Like if you can learn, and if you're a coach and you can teach your athletes how to use those muscles and develop them, like I'd be willing to bet, I have no evidence for this, but I'm willing to put some money on the line that says that person is not going to experience low back pain and is also just going to get a hell of a lot stronger and fitter. And then all of a sudden the midline stabilization component becomes a lot easier, because like if I know how to brace my belly, but I have no way of engaging my posterior chain, then I'm just like really good at holding air in my abdomen while my back rounds. And it's like that we're kind of missing the point here. So I think just to your point, like the midline requirement in the handstand walk, in the wall walk, probably for more athletes, the wall walk, but like how often do we hear athletes complain, my back hurts if I do deadlifts and burpees in the same workout, if I do a deadlift and a wall walk, if I do a deadlift and literally anything, my back hurts. And it's like, there is a way around this. And like, it might actually just require you to slow down and focus on this movement and, reduce the weight and learn how to do it correctly. And if you're a coach, to actually hold an athlete to account for that sort of thing.
Yeah. I feel like this could be, I'm going to try not to ramble because this could be an entire podcast episode, but like you've got the athlete that can deadlift a house that can't do a plank for 30 seconds. Like those people exist. You've got the person who can do a 7-minute plank that deadlifts 60% of the average in your affiliate. I'm currently working with an athlete that has the most hypermobile mid-back, I think, on planet fucking Earth. Like could walk around upside down like a crab on all fours.
Get him a fucking 7-iron.
It's crazy. So when I'm looking at this, it's like we have the idea of strength. We have the idea of endurance. We have the idea of immobile. We have the idea of hypermobile. We have just athlete IQ of I could walk, handstand walk or wall walk in a stacked position. I just don't because I don't feel like I need to. And then over the course of enough rounds or reps or whatever it is, my midline goes. Like we see that all the time in these workouts where you see someone who has the capacity and has, I don't know, the tools or the machinery to be able to be stable in their midline, and they're doing a classic 21-15-9 of these style of movements, and they don't pay attention to it in the 21s and they rip through them. And then by the 9s, they're, hurt or stopping or whatever. There's just so much nuance to it. And I think whenever you get the opportunity, if you have the time in class as an affiliate coach, you have to talk through those different elements. When you get an opportunity to say, hey, you're going to feel like you don't need to brace, or like you can scorpion in your handstand walk, but then this is going to happen. So we're going to think about this from the beginning. We're going to think about the way that we brace. Like the deadlift is so fascinating in that I feel like just like all of the work is done basically 1 inch off the ground. Like if you brace properly, if you grip properly, if your scaps are down and your shoulders are in a position, if you're really bracing your spine to the point that you're not going to have slack in the system, and then you go to stand the bar up, it's going to go from point A to point B fairly effortlessly. And then if you don't do that and then bring all of the effort in the world to trying to move the bar from point A to point B, you're in trouble for X number of reasons. So you have a lot of opportunities in this phase to talk to your members, just little nuggets, if we're doing these things weekly, little nuggets over the course of 7 weeks. If you get 20 opportunities to talk about midline bracing and endurance and the way that you breathe and the way that you move and the way that you set up, maybe you get some osmosis by the end of it and they're thinking about it from that perspective. And you can also say like, hey, people love to have a fucking jacked back and a six pack. Well, want to know how? Here you go.
Yeah. How about a fucking ass and some hamstrings? Like that'd be cool.
Seriously.
Instead of some fucking pancakes attached to your pelvis.
There's a catcher in Major League Baseball who just went off this year, hit an absurd amount of home runs, and his nickname, which is called, everyone calls him this, like they call him this and the announcers call him this, Big Dumper is his nickname. He has a giant ass. And it's hilarious because it's like, it's a decent situation he's got going there, but like I'm going in CrossFit circles here, and there's some
couple of lunges and RDLs later, I'll show you a dumper.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that cracked me up. So it's almost like counter to society now for someone to have glutes at all.
Oh my God, fucking brutal. Did you while we're still just derailing this podcast completely, did you listen to Peter Attia had a round table with
I won't listen to Mike Boyle speak if you're talking
with
about
Mike
that.
Boyle, Gabrielle Lyons, and I don't remember the bodybuilder. I just thought it was funny. Let's see if I can find it. I don't remember who the other one. It doesn't matter.
Can I assume he's still as much of a dipshit as he was when I used to argue with him on the internet?
Mike Boyle?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so
don't squat with 2 legs. Don't teach movements that take more than 1 second to teach.
Well, so that was a large part of it, and like I'm as much of a Peter Attia fan as one can be for just listening to the sound bites and appreciating what he does for the like community and like the longevity space. But they were talking about it, and it was like he, his thing was like, I just got to a point where I was like, the risk reward is no longer there for a deadlift, for a back squat or whatever. And he kind of continued with like, well, I started as basically like, at the time I had no idea what it was, but like as soon as he started describing it, it was like I was like 2 floors in a basement, 2 floors underground, there's no windows, and it's a dungeon. I'm like, yeah, you're in the fucking right place if you want to get strong, right? And it's like, that's where you learn to lift and whatnot. And he kind of went on to say like, I'll do a deadlift day and then I'll be in pain for a couple of days. I didn't injure myself, but it's like, where's the the risk reward is no longer here. And, Mike Boyle had a similar perspective, and, we can skip over the squat talk, but there was plenty of that. And all I could think to myself was just like this is the problem. And this is a problem because we have 4 highly qualified individuals having a round table talking about how the deadlift and the back squat, for example, are not just in general, maybe not worth the risk reward for the general population to do. And I'm like, this is the fucking worst. Because it's you want to know why? Because you have no competent individuals teaching somebody how to do it and say hey, you're deadlifting with a rounded back. Let's elevate the bar a little bit. Let's get you deadlifting from a 12-inch riser until you can deadlift to an 8-inch riser, until you can deadlift to a 6-inch, 4-inch, and then the floor. Okay, you can't back squat without, because your hips are tight, you're whatever. It's let's start with goblet squatting. And then it's well, then we could just, the argument that they seem to present was well, we can just do the same thing with far less dangerous or just risky movements. And I'm you will never be able to match the strength stimulus of a back squat versus a deadlift. And one thing I found super interesting was Mike Boyle was we had athletes split squat more than they could, as much as they could front squat, for example. And all I could think in my head was there's half as much range of motion. And if that's true, what the fuck did this person's front squat look like?
How
and it was
safe would it be for me to put 390 pounds
and
on
it
my
was
back and
well,
split
yeah,
squat?
so we got hockey players,
I'm gonna tear
split
something in my
squatting
knee.
200 and 300 pounds. And I'm without seeing it and
Why
seeing
can
the
they only
coaching,
front
I won't
squat
pass a
200?
judgment. But I'm what
Because they don't back squat.
there is just something not lining up here. And it just it was, again, the broader thing was these are some of the most qualified people in the space of strength and conditioning. And it's I have 7 competent CrossFit coaches here that would know what to do with a grandmother who doesn't know how to stabilize her midline when she's deadlifting, and I will still get her to pick something up off the ground. It might not look like a deadlift yet, but you will not convince me that yeah, we're just not going to deadlift because it's not safe. And I'm so how do they pick up a bag of dog food off the ground? How do they we don't squat because we can develop just as much leg strength. It's yep, we can lunge, we can develop leg strength, but there's a coordination aspect, there's a midline stabilization aspect. It's if you're only lunging, I'm guessing we're probably not elevating a foot in order to get a deep range of motion component to this. And I'm just I'm in my head, I'm trying to think of my own rebuttal to some of these arguments. And it's not to say that they wouldn't be oh yeah, that's actually a great point. But it was astonishing to me that we have set 4 individuals with a level of experience of ranging from professional athletes to training, bodybuilders to a legitimate, medical doctor. And it's this is representative of the viewpoints on these sorts of lifts. And it's just fuck. We needed give me on that interview. Shoot me a text, Atia. Let's chat about this. And it was just mind blowing to me. And I get it. There is a line at which yep, maybe this is not worth the risk reward. I'm not saying that doesn't exist somewhere, but I don't think that line is nearly as close as some people might have you believe. And it's just we're just going to do the same 7 super simple movements that require no teaching or athleticism in any way. I don't know.
Yeah. I've got 2 comments. One of them will lead us into the Montezuma phase.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. We're 43 minutes into this, Bad Betty.
The first comment is this weird, well, there's been a lot of affiliate talk. This is a good affiliate podcast. There is this weird, I don't even know what to call it, reverse one-size-fits-all trash built into this, where if you walk out into our gym, has a large enough sample size, there might be 10 people out of 150, or if you want to call it 160, 170, 10 people who putting a very heavy barbell on their back on a regular basis and squatting to full depth is not a good idea. So do we change the programming at the gym to get rid of that for that cohort of people, or do we fucking coach? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are definitely people who from a genetic standpoint have something going on in their back and their hips that movement is troublesome. and you can make the call about whether you want to continue to work through it or not. But the idea that you would switch to we only split squat for that reason is insane to me. And it's easy for me to say that now after he doesn't teach the power snatch because it's too hard to teach. So I just, as a coach, especially someone who works with professional athletes, I don't even need to debate you. I don't know how you got your stripes, but I'm not going to that university. I'm not interested. I'm good. Like, pass. The second thing that I'll say is I challenge, if you are a head coach or an affiliate owner, I challenge you, every single one of you, to go to the class at your gym that has the highest attendance, and I want you to watch all of them do heavy deadlifts. I want you to watch the warm-up. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to watch how it's coached. I want you to watch how they move and how they move as they start to add weight. I think, to me, I probably know what is going on in your gym, top to fucking bottom, if I walk out and I see that it's beautiful, or maybe we're on the right track, or unfortunately, can I get the middle of my spine to be the highest point in my body at any given time. And there are these, like, bless their hearts, there are these like dungeon CrossFit gyms where some certain things take place in those gyms, but it's a group of passionate people trying to better themselves and probably rallying around each other. So they're on the right track in that regard. There's just something about the deadlift and the way that it's executed, because honestly, it is a really big deal that someone's walking into your gym and trusting you to teach them to move the needle on that kind of movement, because you could fuck their back up for
100%.
the rest of their fucking life. So when I walk out into our gym and it looks like iRobot, it looks like the scene where they walk into the hangar and there's all the robots and they do kind of the same thing at the same time. It's crazy. Like, and that took time to get to that point, to create the culture, to not have it be, there's the like weekend warriors, there's the meatheads, there's this group, there's that group. You cannot tell the difference anymore in our gym. So it's not like we've always been perfect. And when we reposted the video of Roots showing all of the different people at all the different classes, it was this beautiful representation, because genders, ages, just sort of what they looked like, what, demographic they would fit into, or, that sort of thing. Like, that to me is the ultimate representation, because even though there are higher skill movements, the barrier to entry, and honestly, just again, that idea that like, it's kind of a big deal that they're trusting you with teaching them that. Like, to me, that puts it at the top at the affiliate level. So that would be a challenge for everybody to go in and do that. And that is the segue now into our heavy days for the phase, alternate sort of weeks. We do deadlift with PAP, and you can talk a little bit about what you've got in there, Hunter, for the PAP options. We will deadlift in workout on even weeks and heavy days on odd weeks. And then the even weeks, heavy days are just a GPP rotation. You got some bench press, you got some snatch, you got some back squat, etc.
Yep. So the heavy day deadlift stuff, again, that's kind of on almost like the odd numbered weeks leading into, you guys will get to do a 1 rep max at the end of the phase for the deadlift. The nuance here is, one, the PAP. So after every set, you do, PAP stands for post-activation potentiation. Basically, it is a short, explosive movement done after your set of deadlifts. In a, like, you go to Google that post-activation potentiation, you're going to see a bunch of different, like, formats and structures. Most commonly I've seen is like you do a set of squats, for example, and then sprint, like literally go run. And that might actually be like, I did some reading, and like a true PAP program might be like, do a set of squats, rest 5 minutes, go sprint, rest another 5 minutes. And like, okay, so at an affiliate class, like, congratulations, you have 2 sets of back squats. Like, we can't do that. So after every working set, you'll do something explosive. Week 1, for example, is 3 explosive box jumps. So just jumping as explosively as possible, whereas the height doesn't matter. This isn't an exercise in how high somebody can bring their knees up to their chest to reach a tall
It's more
box.
how high can you get your hips, right?
It's how high can you get your hips, how explosively can you time the extension of your hips, knees, and ankles together in order to be explosive. So you have that. And then the deadlift format for this year is, because the emphasis is kind of on that midline stabilization when you're doing, so again, for example, week 1, day 1, you have 5 sets of 3. We're asking athletes to, so you get set up, you deadlift your first rep, you're going to lower the bar under control. So you're getting some of the midline stabilization and the eccentric loading, the lowering component down. But once that bar touches the ground, athletes need to release their grip, stand up, and then reset again. And all of a sudden, we've taken away that stretch reflex. So we've still given athletes kind of the strength development portion of lowering the bar under control, not skipping the eccentric, but we're going to force athletes to reestablish kind of bracing their midline, get their hands back on the bar, and generate force kind of from a dead stop versus using the stretch reflex. That might mean athletes aren't deadlifting maybe as much for their sets of 3 as they might for touch and go, but because kind of our the stimulus and the end goal here at the end of the day, pulling a single rep, like we don't need to be quite as concerned about the lowering phase. It's all about kind of force generation off the floor. So not to say obviously that there isn't a ton of value in touch and go sets, but for this phase, that's kind of what the focus is on. So if you take nothing else, like this is where you have the opportunity to really teach athletes how to brace properly, and then also like by forcing athletes to lower a heavy weight down to the ground under control. Again, it's like athlete can deadlift it all the way up but can't lower the weight under control without rounding their back, like then they can't deadlift the weight. Like again, to play devil's advocate to that round table conversation, it's like if you deadlift poorly or with a rounded back, like absolutely the lift is not worth the risk to reward. And the iRobot comment, like the coaches are excellent, but the athletes have also taken to the understanding that like, what the fuck purpose what do I gain by deadlifting like shit on Monday, October 20th in like my CrossFit class? Like nothing. Like I literally gain nothing. That whiteboard gets erased at the end of the week and literally not a single person remembers what you lifted. Your back remembers what you lifted if you did it poorly though. So teach athletes the fundamentals and then try to ingrain that idea of like athletes, like there is something to be said about like at what point does this lift no longer become as useful as it is dangerous? It's like, well, it's at the point at which you start doing it horrendously. That's the point.
Yeah. And what you want to look out for, I think K-Star was the one who made me really understand this, is not necessarily as much like you're going to have people in your gym that have a little bit of like a turtle shell going on. That's the way that their musculature is, that's the way that their spine is. It's when we are changing the shape of our spine under load.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. The other piece here to double down or maybe even triple down is there's a culture element here. The amount of monkey see, monkey do inside of a CrossFit gym is huge. And if you show up and you're new and you're the one person sticking out like a sore thumb doing God knows what, you're going to notice. Your peers are going to notice, and your coach better notice. If that is, again, if there is a culture of movement there, then you see it happen. You walk out into the gym, and you're just like, how is everyone doing perfect wall balls? It's because the only reference point that they have is this movement, right? We don't have as many people throwing the ball up and, doing a break dance in between reps and that sort of thing in the gym as we used to. All right. The GPP lift, for anyone new, basically we have some weeks we have just the heavy day. And then other weeks we have a heavy day and a GPP lift. And we're basically just making sure that we are getting the variance and the stimulus that we're looking for. And one, I think, note that would explain it somewhat well in the GPP rotation is there is a sneaky, incredible stimulus strength session that I think could go a few different ways. We're doing farmer's lunges, so you holding on to dumbbell in each hand in the farmer's carry position, and you're lunging. Is it 6 sets of 10, Hunter? I believe. Here's what I'll say. If you do a lot of lunging, just, in your own time or whatever, you can do a 6x10 at moderately heavy weight and you'll be okay. If you don't, we are suggesting that set 4 is the first one where you really are worked into, maybe you got 70s or 80s in your hand, something like that. And it's kind of like warm up to 3x10. But we just make sure that we are either, we have the variance, we have the practice of something like a squat snatch, that sort of session, or we have just this stimulus bomb like this. Super low barrier to entry, but farmer's lunges, especially during the time where we're working on the deadlift and we can really kind of smash the posterior chain and the grip simultaneously. That's a doozy.
Asses can't avoid that one.
No.
Yeah.
And the funny thing too is you don't really feel it in real time. You really got to torch yourself to feel it while you're doing it, and then you're like,
yeah,
wow.
Feel it while you're doing it. That's
whatever
dangerous.
whatever the muscle is that runs diagonally across my ass cheek, I am well aware of my anatomy 48 hours after that. I'm like, God, what is that thing? And then the other thing that I'll say, you can speak to how intentional this is, Hunter, but there is a lot of really good, what sort of Misfit Athletics, not necessarily Misfit affiliate, has always referred to as in-WOD lifting, where we're making sure that you're going to be able to express the fact that you can move heavy weight and bring some technique to the party under intensity with in-WOD lifting. And there are, I put in quotes, there are some really fun, quote unquote, in-WOD lifting pieces where, you know, maybe the GPP rotation doesn't take you to a clean, you know, because there's only, you know, 4 or 5 of them in the phase, but you got a heavy squat clean, you got a heavy clean and jerk. These things happen in workout. How intentional are you when you're writing of like, okay, it didn't make its way into the rotation, now I'm going to put it heavy in WOD? Like, how are you thinking about those things?
The lift, like the deadlift, or another lift?
No,
in general?
so the GPP rotation does not have any cleans in it, but then I see heavy squat clean day, heavy clean and jerk day in WOD. Like, as you're going through, are you thinking about making sure that people are exposed to those things over the course of the phase?
Just from like a program design standpoint, if we know that the deadlift is going to be the focus for the next 7 weeks, and we're going to, basically athletes are going to pull either really heavy or more than likely a decent number of reps off the floor at least once a week, you have to be mindful of when and where they're pulling off the floor on the other days, right? So this is one of the reasons that we, you know, previously, maybe 10 years ago, it would have been, hey, every single week you're going to deadlift heavy, like as a standalone lifting session. And then also we probably would have made people lift on the other 4 days of the week as well. But instead, it's like from a GPP perspective, like if I'm an athlete who doesn't get in on those days, or like, again, if that's the only heavy lift that I'm doing, how much capacity in other lifts, what might we be sacrificing here? And again, like a super heavy deadlift day every single week and somebody who actually does attend those days, that can really fucking do a number on your nervous system and just general fatigue over the course of those other days. So having kind of like a little bit of a reprieve as a programmer, say I can do heavy deadlifting on Monday of week 1, and then in week 2, well, 3 rounds of 26 lighter deadlifts in a Metcon, I can still achieve the GPP kind of stimulus. I can still say like, hey, deadlifting, you know, we're deadlifting in a workout today. We can still practice like the midline stabilization, the posterior chain engagement here. We're just doing it for more reps and lighter. And then that frees us up as, again, programmers to say like, well, like, let's make sure that we're still hitting other stimuli so we can actually lunge heavy. We can bench press heavy. We can do, you know, a heavy squat clean Metcon, you know, that's far enough away from the deadlift day so athletes, you know, aren't pulling off the floor excessively over the course of, you know, a 5-day week. So it's more about like knowing what we're going to focus on for the phase and then trying to plug in, make sure that the other stimuli are met somewhere here and there, right? It's like, okay, if I'm pulling from the floor on one day, well, can I do a hang power movement? Is that still considered hinging, or is it like, you're kind of pushing it a little bit here? We had to rearrange a week where it was just like, we're going to kill people if someone comes in here 4 or 5 days in a row. And we have to consider that too. So I don't know if that answers the original question, but it all kind of stems from like what the focus is, and then what can we put on the other days that are going to mesh well across the entire week.
Right.
And then with the understanding that like, hey, if the only heavy lift that we do once a week for the next 7 weeks is a deadlift, like we're no longer biasing something, and we're maybe, actually just, I don't even like
I would call it specializing,
specializing
in the affiliate setting would be doing the same
and
thing
like
over
you
and
have to
over.
like an affiliate, someone maybe who does the program or is an athlete might listen to that and say like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, I want to get better at deadlifting. And it's like, I understand that, but like devil's advocate, let's say if I want to get you better at deadlifting, then like maybe it's twice a week. Maybe it's a heavy day and maybe it's a speed day. Maybe it's a volume day and an accessory day or something like that. But if you are somebody if you are the outlier and you come to the gym 5 days per week and 2 of those days are predominantly lifting, if 40% of your CrossFit program or general physical preparedness program is a single lift, like it's not a general physical preparedness program. Totally understand why somebody might be like, no, I want to get my deadlift up. I want to specialize in this for a period of time. Got it. But as far as like programming for the general population for the purpose of broad, general, and inclusive fitness, like that doesn't match. It also like doesn't work as well as you think it does, which is the other thing.
I was going to say, I was just going to jump in and say that's not even going to fucking work.
And then there's the go ahead.
Your GPP is not high enough. Your GPP isn't high enough.
Yeah.
Like the people who aren't bought into the idea of if you get fitter, you also get stronger. And if you get stronger, you also get fitter. They don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. And they want that kind of specialty program because they can back off and do a movement that moves a bar a few feet instead of hunkering down and taking their medicine, whatever that, sort of looks like. Yeah. So I would push back on a structure that went back towards the lifting every week versus the lifting and in-WOD, only because I think it doesn't work as well in this setting. Like that
we had
is typically what
PR their
I'm
front
defending.
squat.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I mean,
at the end of yesterday.
The level of PRs keep rolling through, and especially at the gyms that are doing a really good job of putting this stuff together. All right. So gymnastics, I would say I sort of recategorized the phase structure notes hunter. It's very much to me seems like a wall walk bias. We have what I refer to as a sprinkling of handstand walking. You're basically giving an opportunity to your more skilled athletes, 40 to 50% of the weeks roughly, to go in and kind of use what they've worked on. I would refer to that a little bit more of an expression of something that you've worked on. But I've really come to enjoy the wall walk for its stimulus. It doesn't really beat up the body. Like I really enjoy the wall walk, and I think one of the reasons is because I made it a staple of the GPP program. Like I want people upside down, but in the GPP program that we put out, like we don't get to coach those classes. I don't really want to do too many handstand push-ups or handstand walking. And the way that we've been able to progress people from like, shit, wall walks again, really? To like, wow, I went from maybe 1 or 2 to like a set at like 6 or 7 or 8 is really fun. And I think that can be replicated really well and even better, honestly, in an affiliate setting. So I am all for, because the like what a wall walk is to a beginner versus someone who's like repping them out is almost kind of like it takes care of multiple stimuli within a single movement.
Yeah, it's certainly obviously more inclusive than the handstand walk. And I think your point that the handstand walk is a bit more of an expression of a combination of proficiencies and in some of the 10 general physical skills, there's obviously I guess there's a mobility component to both of those things. But again, from like a class experience and programming perspective, like everybody can do some form of wall walking. 5% of a given class can do some form of handstand walking. And as far as getting somebody better at handstand walking, one, like super nuanced movement. And honestly, like the tough part about that is like, I'm going to tell that person, like, you have to practice. You just have
exposure.
To do it. Like, it's just exposure. It's like a double under. It's like, you got it. You don't have it until you practice enough and you got it. And handstand walking is very similar. And any like, something reason that you cannot handstand walk is not like, is either if it's capacity related, then like, well, we can do more wall walks and improve shoulder stamina, for example, or whatever it is. But for like, we have plenty of people who can actually handstand walk or at least take a few steps in space who can't perform a full wall walk because they don't have the upper body strength. Like if I can kick up into a stack position in a handstand walk, like I might actually be able to skirt around a lack of upper body strength, midline stabilization that I actually need for a wall walk. So we still give the opportunity for people to do handstand walking. There's still skill days in there, but yeah, like what you said, it's just like that covers everybody. An athlete who can do 12 in a minute versus like the athlete who can max out at 4 in a minute, like they're getting the same stimulus. Someone who can, in a workout where there's 200 feet of handstand walking smack in the middle of a Metcon, like that, an athlete who can handstand walk proficiently and get that done in 2 or 3 minutes is very different than someone who kicks up and holds a handstand for 30 seconds or something like that. It's not the same thing anymore. And it's like, we still want there's still value in getting upside down for sure and working towards the skill of handstand walking, but from like an accessibility standpoint, stimulus standpoint, like it's really difficult to match like the wall walk and what it can do. One thing that I mentioned on that podcast with Castro and Nicole was like when I'm programming, I'm looking at it right now, I have every movement that I have gets categorized. Like there's weightlifting, monostructural gymnastics, the classic WGM. And then within all of those movements, those are organized by high frequency, medium frequency, low frequency. That's why, you do not see nearly as many pistols as you do air squats, for example. There are a lot more wall walks than there are handstand walk. Wall walk lives in the high frequency column. Handstand walking lives in the low frequency. And it's not because I don't want to do it, but it's because like from an efficacy standpoint, like there are some movements that like everybody can do these and it increases capacity for everybody. Like these have to be movements that are just regularly in the programming. We're regularly throwing ring dips and pullovers in the program. It's like, what the fuck?
I'm going to give a marginally stupid analogy.
Love it.
I used to love box jumps because you could rebound and they were very easy for a power athlete. Like maybe my favorite movement. Now that you have to step down, you have to be fit to perform box jumps. And I hate them. They're so hard.
Yeah.
And I think about the wall walk versus the handstand push-up or the handstand walk in the same way, especially in an affiliate, because I know a lot of people, let's say it's echo bike handstand walk or run handstand walk, that will be mid-pack to bottom of the pack and come in even still just gassed because it's about their fitness level and cruise across the floor, knock out their handstand walks, beat everybody out the door. When you are gassed, people did this in the open last year. When you are gassed and you go do wall walks, they suck.
You don't get ungassed.
Because you turn off and on back and forth like you do when you step down, right? You got to go back down. You got to start over. Like you aren't just upside down and then not upside down as you're doing it. So in this setting, because of what we are chasing, longevity, GPP, etc., I think it's better, like actually better, not just because it's accessible. Like I personally like wall walks because I have pretty good upper body mobility and upper body strength. But man, when they get hard, you cross this threshold that like, it's weird. There's just a point where they go from like 4 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. And you wondered where 5, 6, and 7 went like at that, at any given point. So I think it's a cool movement, cool stimulus.
I think the only real like comparison of them, I guess, is the fact that there's an inverted component and there's a midline component, which is great, but from a stimulus perspective, they're essentially two different things, right? The same athlete who can handstand walk and wall walk, it's very difficult for me to write a workout, everything else being equal, instead swap in handstand walk for wall walk. It's gonna be a different workout.
Yeah, for sure. One nuance here is that the wall walk comes with a retest workout. So me on the narrative building side, love it. Love a retest workout. We have run into pushback when the retest is
the fucking haze fest.
Exactly. Just getting their asses handed to them. And honestly, tests often do get a little bit over-programmed because you want that wow factor. And I do think that they create a narrative and sell well once. So it's like, I'm going to haze you with this thing. I want you to remember that feeling, and you're going to need to do the work on your own to say like, oh, wow, I really did get better at this movement over the course of the phase. Whereas if it has, a lot of times like a triplet's a little bit easier to digest, or a chipper, there's certain durations and styles of workouts that are a little bit easier to digest. I think that work really well as a test retest. And man, I spend too much time on the wall walk here, but there are a lot of people in your gym that you consider to be the upper echelon, the fire breathers that suck at wall walks. And like a lot of, this gets emailed out to the Misfit Gym Portland members. They're going to hear this. You know who you are. You kick everyone's ass in every workout, and then there's wall walks and you regress to the mean, which is good. You got to be humbled every once in a while, but another teaching opportunity is what I'll say. Really get people to focus on the way that they move instead of moving like a spaz for one round and then dying every round after that. All right. We're kind of cruising now, coming towards the end of the podcast. Cardio days. We don't have a specific bias this phase, like a running, or when we get closer to the open, we kind of lock in on rowing. Sorry to put that out as a preview. I know everyone hates that. We just write good workouts with different modalities, and they're those days I think that are so important in the program because of the barrier to entry. It's just like, you just did one, Hunter. You just had a grand old time doing yet another iteration of a cube test kind of vibe, 4 on 4 off by 4. We're just going to keep writing stimulus bombs. I think they're good for the community because you kind of just suffering to the left and to the right. Like, I find that, I know it's part of it's because it's an interval, but like, I'm really in conversation. You get the fist bump. Hey, nice job. I peeked at your screen. I saw that you were doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a lot of reasons why they belong in the program. And then every once in a while you'll have members who will be like, I could go to a Globo gym and do my rowing intervals, or I could do this. And it's like, I want you to do the same workout alone and then do the same workout in this environment and tell me if it's worth it to come in and do the shared suffering thing. It's 100% worth it. There are days when they look bad.
When I come to the gym for a 5K when I can do it at home.
Because you're going to be 4 minutes faster.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me know what your time is. Let me know when you're going to do that.
Or if you even do it, or if you finish it.
That's what the actual question is. Like, okay, well, post your score for everybody to see. I'm sure you're going to do that.
You learn after enough time. You see a piece and you go, you know what? The version of me that I want to show up to this has to be in class. I don't care what my schedule is. Change it. Sorry, I got to move that meeting. I got to take class, because if I do this alone, my splits are going to be worse. I'm going to be sadder. I'm going to feel like I have an out because I'm hiding in the corner. Like, very important part of the program. And I think, honestly, really important days for your community if you can, once again, sort of build the culture around that like shared suffering idea.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my only comment on the cardio days, is that because of the accessibility, and they're not designed to be accessible for the purpose of being accessible. That's just kind of like how they turn out, when it's like, the goal here is a very specific cardiovascular stimulus that we can get 100% of members to achieve.
Right.
The best way to do that is with these low skill, low barrier to entry movements that everybody can do. And then, like you said, it's like, it becomes a hell of a lot easier when 100% of the class is doing the same thing, suffering together and in a similar way. Everybody experiences the same thing. Everybody commiserates the same way. And from a coaching perspective, like, one, that makes it way more fun to coach, and it can be easy to, or it makes it like, all you have to do in those instances is like just a little nugget. It's like, hey, like, you have a score to beat, try to beat it this round. Hey, I want you to, like, you're going to get on the machine, and like, where the last minute of every interval, I'm going to tell you like to pick it up every 20 seconds. Like, you're going to finish this interval a little faster than you started. Like, just little things like that can get, one, the buy-in from the members, and two, like, get them to just push harder than they obviously would because you're definitely going as hard. Like, I didn't go as hard. Like, there's no way I fucking did it in open gym after I coached 9 before I did this podcast.
You were racing Pettit.
Like, love Pettit.
That's
I'm sure he's listening. Joke. He's definitely listening to this for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Pettit was... it was maybe not my pace boat for that, but
Yeah, probably not. I hope not.
yeah. But the cardio days are those that fucking Nicole and Dave were talking about. That was a cardio day, which is a sprinty cardio day. But those are we get more messages about those days than we do the fucking muscle up, squat clean. Like, not the same thing.
You know what we need to do for an episode? We need to do a in-class, like individual class narrative building episode with Mark as our guest.
Oh, man.
Like, I'm just fascinated by the little things he brings to the class to get people to buy in on that day. There's a story attached to it. He claims it's all off the cuff. He's thinking on that drive-in. I know he is. I bet it's a combination of the two. I think the actual wording is you got to let him cook. I think he probably works better if it's off the cuff.
Yeah.
But we'll have him on and we'll dig into that a little bit because it's, at the very least, will be very entertaining.
For sure. Yeah, I came in today and I looked at the whiteboard and I was like,
same.
A classic Mark Kubek risk assessment matrix. And by risk assessment matrix, I mean there's a line that says like good job, the other end says you're dead, and then there's like an X that's like an inch left of you're dead, and it's like that's the Mark Kubek. But you look at the PowerPoint, it's not that great. You show up and listen to the story and the narrative, and all of a sudden Kirk's getting ready to fucking run through the wall for the 7th time this week. It's just like, okay, I guess I'll just go kill Eric now.
So we always finish up this podcast. This is for new listeners, new affiliates, and just let you guys know that there are, while we undersell the perks of this program, aside from it just being really effective, there are actually a lot of add-ons and benefits to signing up for the program. So we've got daily warm-ups, we've got strength and skill notes, workout notes, and scaling. So basically when you are looking at your day, again, if you listen to the interview with Hunter and Dave and Nicole, he sort of insinuates that you should be building your own warm-ups, but we want to let you know how we think about the idea of building a warm-up for you to then either use it or reverse engineer it, that sort of thing. We're always going to explain the strength or skill that is in addition to the conditioning or in place of the conditioning, and then do the same thing with the workout. And the workout notes are very much like, this is what we're expecting of this workout. And you do get target scores that are in there. We don't suggest always putting all of this information on the whiteboard, honestly. A lot of it's more for coaches and scaling. But basically, what is this workout supposed to be? And then all the way down through the movements of how would we think about scaling these. And we give you specific scales, but again, a lot of it is about reverse engineering. Hey, I don't quite have this tool in my toolbox yet as a coach. How are they thinking about this?
Yeah.
And that's how you can sort of work your way through those notes. Make it your own thing at your own gym, the things that you want to focus on, the things that you want to preach to your members. But we're giving you a lot of information on a daily basis about how we are thinking about this stuff. And last but not least, you get a competitor extra 6 days a week. One of those days is either going to be a makeup day or zone 2 work, which would be really important kind of for your weekend warriors. And then what we're doing with the competitor extra is we are rounding out the program with, hey, if it's only strength, it's probably going to be conditioning in the competitor extra. If there's no strength, it's probably going to be strength or accessory. Do we scan the week? And we're like, hey, if they're going to compete, we got to make sure their, higher skill pressing or pulling gymnastics are being rotated in enough, that sort of thing. And then I try to build, this is what I write in the program, and I try to build in some potential athlete IQ exercises, things that you probably wouldn't notice if you only took affiliate class that you probably need for information to go into a local competition, the open, that sort of thing. And I view this wholeheartedly as a retention tool. A lot of gyms have open gym culture where, I don't know, like people pay for a membership and there's 20 or 30 I've seen at some gyms. People in the different open gyms throughout the day following a different company's competitor program. And that's a fucking lonely road for all the athletes that have done it, that are not, the psychos that are professionals. And you end up losing that member because they don't get the community aspect. They don't get the coaching. They're basically just paying to use your facility. So if you can keep them in class and then give them something that's going to help them sort of go towards their competitive aspirations, and it's actually well-rounded and it fits, you should be able to hold on to your members a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add to the competitor extra thing is, for me, I'm always thinking of it as an opportunity to like talk to the athlete about what their goals are, what's the rationale for doing the competitor extra, and it's like, hey, I've got some time, I want to do a little bit extra work. There's nothing wrong with that, but it gives you an avenue as a coach to talk about, like, is the goal to get better? Are we working towards something? Hey, how's your sleep? How's your nutrition? Are you going to be able to recover from this piece? And it just opens the door for other conversations. And then obviously what you said is super important, just giving athletes who want to do a little bit extra the easy, like, hey, here it is. And it works in conjunction with the rest of the week. It's not just pulled off of fucking Instagram, written by someone trying to get likes, so.
The other piece I'll say is for any Misfit Gym members listening, permission to cherry pick for coaches. You can tell members, like, it's not I'm either the competitor extra person or I'm not. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, I would like to practice my muscle ups. I want to get better at snatching. I want to get better at back, whatever it is. Like you're going to get 5 chances every single week to work on strength, skill, or a particular thing in a Metcon. You don't have to stay after every time. In fact, I would encourage people to only do it once or twice to start, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with, like, I don't like being sore when we, this is like an annoying example, but I don't like being sore when we do GHD sit-ups. So now I'm going to do them 9 times a year instead of twice. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So permission to cherry pick. Last but not least, we have the engine programming. This is a really cool program, really thoughtful, well thought out program by one of our coaches here, Chris. He is very good at the narrative building, the idea of, hey, this is what we're chasing within this given phase. This is what we're going to work on. And he's very thoughtful in his progressions of how to do so. And I like looking at it because he thinks outside the box a little bit. And people who think outside the box often over-program, or it looks gimmicky, and he's able to present things a little bit differently with them still, just working really well. And the joke that I put insert every single time in this podcast is the engine people are annoying because they kick your ass on cardio day every single time. And that's just proof that it works. And for people looking for that 7th day of programming, that's how we do it at our gym. 7th day of programming at Misfit Gym Portland is engine class that gets run on Sundays. So, and honestly, the kind of workout a lot of members want to do on the weekend as well.
Yeah, that the days 1 and day 2 typically have that kind of focus. The engine program's a 3-day-a-week thing. Day 1 and day 2 kind of has a focus for the phase. There's usually a retest component. That 3rd day is kind of the, usually a little bit longer, low skill, get your sweat on sort of Sunday workout. Our members really like it. That class is usually packed. Does an awesome job running it. But like to your point, he creatively plugs in like important components of fitness. Like day 1, for example, this phase is a combination of like grip, like a grip focus, and it's like, okay, well, like grip into functional fitness, like how do we do that sort of thing? And it's like, well, I could just make you row and carry stuff and like just kind of bias, like again, just like the regular programming, I'm just biasing a certain thing that I want to get people better at. The day 2 thing gives people like cadences to focus on their machine work, whether it's a rower, a C2 bike, strokes per minute, revolutions per minute, all those sorts of like just little small things that give an athlete something to think about while they're doing this, while they're doing what would otherwise be like, hey, if I just said 12-minute machine, rest 3 minutes, 12-minute machine, like that gets nowhere near as much engagement as like, yep, it's 12 minutes, but 3 minutes you're rowing at 22 strokes per minute. The next 3 minutes are at 26, then 30, then back to 26. And then it's similar on the bike. And it gives the athlete, one, distracts them from what is essentially just cardio. But again, like it teaches you something. And that's kind of how all these pieces are. So it's a really creative way of getting people, again, and it's a super low barrier to entry program as far as the skills, the weights, the stuff like that is concerned.
I think that's it. Any final thoughts on the phase?
No, I got so many thoughts on deadlifts and midline stabilizations and posterior chain engagement, but I'll put everybody to sleep.
Yeah,
Save
I think
it for another day.
Yeah, I think the final thoughts are just going all the way back to the beginning of a wall walk and a deadlift are fairly low barrier to entry movements, and they can set the foundation for movement culture within your gym. If you are not going to get into the details of movements like that and how they need to be executed, when you go to teach complex movements, the buy-in's going to be lower. People aren't going to have the foundation of how to safely pull from the floor or get upside down or hang from the rings. You need to start with the basics as a coaching staff and get those really dialed in, and they will trickle down in ways that I think honestly you wouldn't even believe unless you start to do that. So it's just another nod to kind of the brilliance in the basics thing. And luckily they're two huge needle movers, which is, you know, what we're going for at the end of the day. So really cool phase. You can get 2 weeks for free by going to teammisfit.com, clicking on the sign up now button at Sugar Watt, Stream Fit, or Push Press. If you would like a 2-week sample emailed to you, email coach@misfitathletics.com. It's also going to be something on Instagram where I do the same thing. I usually get a pretty long list of emails from people that want to see it. So you can also just go that route. I'm going to, I don't know, tell you to post a pirate emoji or some shit and I'll email it to you. So those are the options for getting the program. Obviously the note going all the way back to the beginning to existing affiliates and new affiliates. I'm here if you want to talk through the things that you think you're struggling with at the affiliate level. coach@misfitathletics.com. If you want to bring more people into the conversation, the Telegram is a great place to do that because you can talk to other affiliate owners as well as Hunter and I. But yeah, I'm excited it's always fun to kind of turn the page on a new phase. And we've got our doozy of a 10th anniversary workout tomorrow.
Chia.
And then we get started on the new phase.
Love it.
Did we do it?
Chia.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. If somehow you listen to this entire podcast, but you want our affiliate or our individual programming, head to the link in bio on Instagram and get signed up on Strivey or Fitter. I will not say the instructions for signing up for teammisfit.com. Click on sign up now again. Or you can email me. See you guys next week.
Later.
Misfits!
You're a scrappy little misfit, just like me.
Biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.